Okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Francheska Jimenez, and I am the graduate program administrator here at the NYU Center for Data Science. Today we are presenting on the Masters in Science, Data Science Admissions Information session. And we have several folks here that will be presenting and speaking today about our program and the admissions process. So to get started, here's our agenda for today. We'll be kicking things off with a welcome from our Director of Graduate Studies of the MS program, Professor Brian McFee. He'll be going into detail about some of the things regarding the program and the admissions. And then we'll dive even deeper into those things later on, as well as some information about our career and professional development series, and then a Q&A with current students and staff. All right, so I will pass things over to you, Brian. I'll stop sharing my screen.
All right, and I will share my screen. All good? All right, well, thank you. I would say it's good to see you all, except I can't see you all, but I'm glad that you're all here. So I'm going to just give a quick overview of both the Center for Data Science and specifically the master's program that we have. By way of introduction, so my name is Brian McFee. I'm an assistant professor of music technology and data science, which sounds like a weird combination, but really what that means is that I do machine learning on audio. So anything that has to do with audio and specifically music, that's kind of where I sit. I've been at the Center for Data Science for 10 years now, which is mind-boggling. And starting this past year, I've become the Director of Graduate Studies for the master's program. We have undergraduate, master's, and doctoral programs, but this one is specifically for the master's program, which is why you're here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about everything we do here and what it's like. I imagine you don't need a whole lot of advertisement for being interested in data science, but it is sometimes helpful to clarify what we mean because different people will use the term differently. Some people use data science as another name for statistics to make it sound newer and fancier, and I don't think that's entirely accurate. And some people will use it for a way of rebranding computer science to make it more accessible or something like that. And I don't think that's accurate either. Really, I think data science is kind of the best of both of these fields, plus other things that become useful for solving specific problems. So it's very interdisciplinary. It uses a lot of statistical techniques, computational techniques, and domain knowledge to really do effective data-driven problem solving. And that's kind of what we're all about here. So data science kind of became a term around 10 years ago, when slightly before the center started. Otherwise, it would have been hard to name the center that. But it has become a term that people use, and it really is everywhere in pretty much any aspect of your life these days. We generate so much data in everything that we do that it would be kind of wasteful to not make good use of it. But doing that to make good data-driven decisions really requires both understanding of the data and the ability to process it and work with it effectively. As a result, there has been a lot of demand for people that have these skills, and that's what we specialize in training you to do here. So for the past few years, well, more than a few, data scientists, data engineer roles, and things of other titles that are functionally equivalent are consistently among the top US jobs. And that's not likely to change anytime soon. But it is worth noting that this is a fast-moving field and things do change. So this is kind of how things have been for the past few years. But as I'm sure you all know, we are in kind of a transitional period where AI tools are now becoming useful enough to actually change the way that we work and the way that we think about certain things. And that can be kind of scary when entering a job market. And I think the way that I would recommend approaching this is to realize that all of these AI tools, pick your favorite, your Chat, your Sonnet, your Claude, your Chat GPT, whatever, they're all driven by extremely large data sets. And without the ability to understand how to work with data sets effectively, these tools don't work. So if you want to stay on top of this kind of revolution in how science and really everything works these days, getting the skills to work with large data sets is like absolutely critical. None of this stuff works without that. So that's kind of the sales pitch for data science. Broadly, let's talk about the Center for Data Science at NYU and what it is and what makes it special. So first confusing thing to get out of the way is that we're not really a department. We're what's called a provostial center. And what that means is that we're not under any particular department. So we're not a part of statistics or a part of computer science or mathematics or whatever. We kind of split across departments. And that's really taking to heart what I was saying earlier about how this field is interdisciplinary and it sort of pulls from any direction that makes sense to use. Not being under a particular department gives us a lot of flexibility to kind of adapt and change the way that we do things as the field develops. So the center was founded a little over 10 years ago. It kind of grew out of leadership at the Courant Institute, which was really where applied mathematics and statistics and things like that happen at NYU. And it's been running ever since. The master's program was the first academic program that we had, and it's very well developed at this point. And we launched other programs, in the years since. Currently, our director is Carlos Fernandez Granda. You'll see a picture of him somewhere in my slides later on. And yeah, so we have a nice building with some blurry cars in front of it. I'm sitting in that building right now. I'm like right over here. You can kind of see me. Okay. So within the Center for Data Science, we have the master's program, and our goal is really to be the top data science master's program worldwide. And we've been at this for a long time. We were one of the first, if not the first, certainly one of the first. And we aim to not just specialize in any particular aspect of data science, but really to kind of take a big tent approach and train people across all kinds of fields to do data science in different ways for different uses. We also extend that thinking to how we approach admissions and recruitment and student background. So we don't just have students coming in from computer science or statistics or whatever. Really, we get people from all kinds of backgrounds. As long as you have sort of the base level technical skills to be successful in our courses, we're happy to have people from any discipline and any trajectory they want to be on. What we train people to do is combine basically all of the kinds of tools that you're likely to need. So mathematics and statistics, of course, computational thinking, computer science, programming, big data, databases, stuff like that, social sciences, ethics and responsibility, engineering, all of these things come together to make a successful data scientist. And that is reflected not only in our academic program, but also in the faculty and leadership here. So I'll just give you a snapshot of all these pictures of people. We have 20 some odd full-time faculty here, and all of the faculty are joint with data science and some other department at NYU. So in my case, I'm joint with data science and music. Other people might be joint with linguistics, computer science, mathematics. There's psychology, neuroscience, a whole bunch of different disciplines and departments represented here. In terms of our research interests, it is pretty much anything you could hope to do, I think, at least, anchoring within data science. So we have a lot of people working on natural language processing and understanding. This feeds directly into large language models, AI tools, all that kind of stuff. We have people on the more theoretical end doing machine learning methods in theory or statistics, things of that nature. We have people who apply these ideas and techniques in neuroscience and cognitive science. We have folks doing computer vision or, like myself, audio, machine perception generally. So taking things that are not necessarily easy to digest for computers and turning them into things that we can do computational thinking on and extract information from. You have people who work at the intersection of data science, computer science, and how it impacts the rest of the world. So fairness, accountability, transparency, things like that, policymaking. That is a huge growth area and something that I definitely encourage you to dig into if you have the chance. Visualization, big data, databases, kind of the bread and butter stuff that we need to work with large data sets. We have people working at the intersection of data science and healthcare, biomedical applications. Really, it's a whole lot of things that you can do here. And this is all reflected in the interest of the faculty. As I mentioned before, this master's program has been running for, well, now over 10 years. We had kind of a nice quick ramp up in growth. So early on, it was relatively small. And for the past few years, we've been averaging about 170 students per year, give or take, some years more, some years less. It kind of fluctuates. Our acceptance rate is on average about 10%, so it's very selective, and it is one of the top programs that you can go to. And as a result of that, we have a really good alumni network and good job placement. And you'll see more about that later on in this presentation when you hear about what the other students are doing and things like that, career outcomes, et cetera. In terms of what you'll do within the program, and I believe Francheska is going to go more into detail with this stuff. But basically, we have 36 credits that you'll need to take. That's divided among kind of core required classes in mostly your first year. So intro to data science, probability and statistics, big data, and machine learning. That's basically your first year courses. In the second year, you have a required capstone course, which I currently teach, which is very project oriented, and you work with external mentors to solve real data science problems. And then beyond that, you have options for elective courses in any number of different topics, like what I mentioned previously. We have tracks and concentration electives. If you have a specific niche within data science that you want to be focusing on, we have courses that are kind of tailored to that, and we have recommendations that we can give you. And we have kind of general electives that you can take to sort of round out your education. This is very high level, but you'll get a little bit more information about that as we go on. In terms of career paths, mostly students tend to go into data science and data engineering roles in industry. But there are a lot of students that also go into research roles academically or at an industrial research lab across any area you could think of. That could be applications, methods, theory, or domain science, et cetera. And we have a certain portion of students that also go into entrepreneurship, start their own businesses, and they tend to be very successful as well. So briefly, and we'll touch more on this later on in the session, what we would look for in applicants. First of all, technical proficiency. So you need to demonstrate that you have kind of the foundations to get into this field. That usually means mathematics, statistics, and a little bit of computer science in your undergraduate training. We want to see a good demonstration of your track record in those courses. But beyond that, we want to see that you have kind of a clearly thought out career goal and a direction that you want to go. And that's going to be articulated in your statement. And then when we look at the cohort of students that we're trying to admit, we try, as I mentioned before, to welcome students from any kind of background. As long as they have the foundations, we want to keep it as open as we possibly can and make sure that this field stays open and interesting and diverse. So I'm going to stop there, but this might be a good time to pause for questions before we transition back to the next stage of the presentation.
Yeah, let's see.
And I'm going to stop the screen share so that I can see you all.
I think we're going to cover most of these later on. They're pretty general. I'd say maybe one that maybe you could give some insight on is someone asked, as an undergrad, they have a lot of research experience in data science and statistics. Would not having a lot of industry experience affect their chances?
No, not necessarily. We do get students who have a lot of work experience and some students who come directly from undergrad. And it's really more about trajectory and direction than where you currently are, what you've done. So yeah, I mean, we have plenty of students that fit that kind of profile, and yeah, I wouldn't think it's an impediment.
Um, yeah, okay. Well, everything else is pretty much like we're going to cover later. It's very application specific. Um, so I think, yes, thank you, Brian.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully, I will see you in the future.
Thank you so much. All right, so let me go ahead and share again on my end. Okay. So, oh, yep, this is me. All right, so I'm going to continue here, sharing a bit more information about the program, folks that you will likely come into contact with during your time here, information on the admissions and application process, and then some more information about our career and professional development programming. So I know there's a lot of questions in the Q&A about things like stats, post-graduation, and things like that. So we'll be covering a lot of those things coming up here. So to get started, just sharing some information here about our leadership and staff at CDS. Um, you just heard from Professor Brian McFee. He's currently our Director of Graduate Studies for the MS program. He works alongside our interim director, Professor Carlos Fernandez Granda, who oversees the entire center, and then Professor Jonathan Niles Weed, who is our deputy director. In terms of our staff, we have several staff members, both on our graduate academic team, undergraduate, that you may interact with during your time in the program. So Catherine Angelis, our Director of Academic and Student Affairs, who oversees the entire undergrad and graduate programs, anything related to academic and student affairs. Tina Lamb, who you may be seeing as answering some of the questions in the Q&A. He is our Assistant Director of Graduate Programs. Zoe Levin is our Assistant Director of Career Development, Industry Relations, so she will work directly with students on those areas, so provide support in your journey and securing internships and preparing for post-grad opportunities. Then there's me, also supporting you all alongside Tina in terms of like academic advising and other supports that you may need during your time at CDS. And then we have many other teammates, colleagues that support various aspects of making sure the center is running efficiently, both on the facilities side, faculty affairs side, making sure our communications and our website and social media, everything is working cohesively. So to go a little bit deeper into our MS curriculum, Professor Brian McFee touched on this a bit, but I'll go into some more specifics here. So the entire program requires 36 credits to be completed. 18 of those credits are 6 required courses that are completed within the program itself. So students generally are completing these, the majority of these courses in their first year in the program if you are pursuing full-time. For instance, introduction to data science and probability and statistics are usually completed in the first semester, especially because they are prerequisites for the majority of higher level courses such as machine learning, big data, and other electives that you may be interested in taking within the department. As well as our capstone course, which all students are required to complete. And this is usually completed in the first semester of the second year as a full-time student. Machine learning and big data are usually completed in the second semester of the first year. And then one data science elective is also required. So this is a course that has the course number of DSGA. So any course available within the program is eligible to complete this, well, not any course, but there's a list of courses that are eligible to complete this requirement. We also offer several other electives that students may be interested in taking depending on your interests. For instance, if you're interested in NLP, mathematics, statistics, there are several other higher level courses that students may take as electives. And then students also have the opportunity to pursue elective courses outside of the program as well. So this could be through other academic departments or other NYU schools, such as NYU Stern or Tandon. And in order to complete the degree requirement, this would be another additional 18 credits. So generally another 6 courses, depending on how the credit numbers that are assigned to those courses. Other options such as internship courses, independent studies, those are also available for students to partake in to fulfill these credit requirements as well. So to go over what our tracks and our industry concentration look like. So the majority of our students do follow the general data science track. And so this is the standard requirements that I just mentioned. So the 6 required classes, 6 electives of your choosing. Some students may elect an area of interest. And so these areas are mainly used as advisory tools. So there are some courses that may fall within these subfields that students may be interested in pursuing depending on what your career pathways of interest are. However, students are not required to necessarily fulfill those specific course requirements to complete the general data science track. These are just advisory tools that will essentially guide you in pursuing this specific area, but you are not restricted or limited to only taking those classes within your time in the program. So it's totally up to you. If you want to mix things up, you have the option to do so. We also have our biomedical informatics medical school track. And so this is for students who are interested in the field of biomedical informatics. Most of the electives are offered through the School of Medicine. Students in this track also are assigned a faculty advisor through the medical school who will guide them in what courses will align with this specific interest area as well. And I should add here that students that are interested in the biomedical informatics track don't necessarily need to have a background in this. So you don't necessarily need to have like a background in biology or pre-med or anything of that sort to pursue this track. Although you should demonstrate in your application why you are interested in this in particular. And I also, just to clarify, that this is not a medical degree either. This is still an MS degree, but it is just joint with the coursework that is offered through the medical school. And then finally, we have our industry concentration. So students who are interested in industry targeted coursework and practical training are encouraged to pursue this. And again, this is not necessarily to say that if you want to pursue a career in the industry that you have to absolutely pursue the industry concentration. Of course, many, and majority of our students, because they're in the general track, are also obtaining careers in the industry. So you're not necessarily like limited to just pursuing industry concentration if you're interested in specifically working in the industry. This is more so just an opportunity to zero in the type of coursework you're taking within this area. And also in the sense of having an opportunity to obtain course credit for that as well. So if you are planning to complete an internship within the first year in the program, you can register for our practical training course and receive credit while simultaneously completing the internship. And the practical training course also provides students with a faculty advisor who will provide guidance throughout your time in participating in your internship. For international students, this might be of particular interest because of limitations with your visa requirements. You do have to wait a year before you can pursue requesting CPT to be able to receive work authorization. So if you are hoping to complete an internship within the first 2 semesters of the program, pursuing the industry concentration would allow you to do that because it is an educational requirement. So this is just also another way for students to be able to obtain just or start a little bit earlier in obtaining the industry experience before you reach your second year in the program. So I know I've mentioned a lot about full-time studies, so I wanted to make sure that we clarify some things with regards to part-time study at CDS. So we absolutely do have many students that pursue part-time study in the program. It is designed to be completed in 2 years of full-time. However, as I mentioned, it is still possible to do so on a part-time basis. So for domestic students, or if you're an international student and your visa allows it, you can pursue the program on a part-time basis. And so this means less than 9 credits a semester. Full-time is a minimum of 9 credits. And the restriction when it comes to this is that you have to complete the degree within 5 years. We do want to also emphasize that we make the effort to offer a lot of our required classes in the late afternoon or evenings, but this is not always a guarantee. There's a lot of elements that are involved in terms of course scheduling, such as faculty availability, classroom availability, things of that sort. And so often we may be limited to what we can offer, but we do make an effort to try and provide some variety in terms of the schedule. Electives are also scheduled throughout the day. So this is another thing to keep in mind. If you're planning to work full-time, you may need to ensure that you can work with your employer to have a flexible schedule to make sure that you can complete courses. So yeah, so that's something to be mindful of. All right, so now into the admissions process and more details on filling out your application. So in terms of the academic profile, we do have educational prerequisites. We require students to have completed a course in Calculus 1, linear algebra, intro to computer science, or something equivalent to CS 101 programming course. So there's no specific set of requirements in terms of what language is expected to have been learned in this course, but we do generally expect um, serious academic and or professional experience with Python and R at a minimum. So that is another thing to keep in mind. And then in addition to these, at least one course in Calculus 2, probability, statistics, or advanced physics, engineering, or econometrics course with heavy and rigorous mathematical content. As was mentioned earlier, we do expect students to have this prior exposure to coursework such as the one stated here, and then things like machine learning, computational statistics, data mining, et cetera, will definitely help your application, as that can demonstrate your skill level and whether or not you are equipped to be successful in this graduate program. So if you have this type of background, it will definitely be helpful for you, but uh, we don't necessarily limit folks that have not come from these STEM backgrounds from applying. We do encourage all applicants, whether or not you are coming from a STEM background or other academic backgrounds, to definitely apply as long as you fulfill these educational prerequisites. Other application requirements, international students do need to submit a TOEFL or IELTS exam unless you have previously completed a bachelor's or master's degree from an institution where the language of instruction is English. So if you attended school in the US, or if your institution back at home, the main language of instruction was English, then that would waive this requirement for you. Otherwise, it is a hard requirement. There is no waiving it. And we also do not accept a Duolingo exam, so please keep that in mind. You will also have to submit your college transcripts. So when submitting, you can submit an unofficial transcript through the application portal, or an official one. Either one is fine, but also keep in mind that if admitted, you will need to submit an official transcript prior to matriculating. We will also require 3 letters of recommendation. We prefer that all letters be on letterhead and signed, although this is not a hard requirement. And then a statement of academic purpose is also required. And finally, the GRE is optional. So I know there are a lot of questions about this in the Q&A as well. So just to clarify with regards to what we mean by optional, is that we do not review the GRE unless there is a reason to do so. So you are welcome to submit one if you'd like. If you have any concerns about your academic grades, your background, and you feel that your GRE can help support your application, you're totally welcome to do so. But there is no priority or preference given to applicants that submit a GRE. So to continue on this, kind of what I was just touching on, our application review process is a holistic one. So we do not have a cutoff for the GRE if you do submit one. As I mentioned, there's no preference given. We weigh all parts of the application as equally as possible, so that it includes your grades, your GPA, your academic background, alongside your statement of purpose and letters of recommendation. So we really do want you to make sure that you put in as much effort into all parts of these aspects, because excuse me, one part won't necessarily guarantee you admission. So you can have great grades, but you can also perhaps not have such great statement of purpose or letters of recommendation, and those won't reflect that well for you. So making sure that your application is great across the board, not in just one area, is going to be key. In your statement of academic purpose, make sure that you are communicating to us why you want to study data science. Especially like what it is a reason for you being so passionate about it, what stands out for you about the field. And then in terms of letters of recommendation, you should make sure that you are selecting folks that can speak very highly on your behalf, people that know you, that can speak on your skills and your ability to perform at the graduate level. So choosing someone who might not know you so well, there's a chance they won't write you such a great letter. So making sure that you're picking people that can speak on your behalf. Again, programming experience, Python is used most frequently in the program, so you will need to make sure that this is demonstrated in your application. And then finally, you can find a lot of resources and answers to frequently asked questions in the NYU Graduate School of Arts and Science Application Resource Center. So make sure that you are checking these sites for information that may not be clear. There's a lot of information available there. And then if you have any questions, you are also welcome to reach out to them directly, or our team as well. Okay, now regarding tuition, scholarships, and financial aid. So tuition is determined by the university at large. So NYU determines the rate at which each credit is billed. So students pay per credit. And again, the master's degree requires 36 credits. So you can kind of determine what that overall number would look like just by going to this website here, seeing what the rate is. And just keep in mind that there is usually a rate increase each year. So the number is not set every, like for the following year might not be set right now. So that's something to keep in mind. In terms of scholarships, internally, we have very, very limited scholarships. All applicants are considered by the admissions committee. So there is no separate application process for this or deadline. So if you are hoping to be considered for any internal scholarships, we highly encourage you to make sure to submit a personal history statement. The personal history statement is optional, but we highly, highly, highly recommend that if you would like to be considered for a scholarship, that you submit a personal history statement as well. But again, please keep in mind that there's very limited funding available here. So not all applicants are guaranteed any type of a scholarship. In terms of financial aid, this varies across the board for domestic international students, and is also managed by the NYU Financial Aid Office. So you can navigate towards their page to find more information about what is available through the university. Finally, important dates. So the application is open. The deadline for fall 2025 is January 22nd, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We only admit in the fall, so if you were hoping for spring admissions, we do not admit for spring at all, ever. All materials, including letters of recommendation, are due by the deadline. So please make sure that you are requesting these things well in advance from your recommenders. And this also goes for any exams. Exam scores should also be in by the deadline as well. We do not accept any updates after the deadline. We start reviewing applications right away after the deadline has passed. So there's just simply not time for any extensions of any sort. To clarify on this, we also do not have any rolling admissions. We only start reviewing applications after the deadline as well. So there's no early decisions or anything of that sort either. Admissions decisions will likely be reached around mid-March. So please keep that in mind as well. Okay, now to quickly just go over some information about our career and professional development offerings. So our main goal with this is to make sure that we can help students develop their professional skills and connect you all with companies and organizations when it comes to internships and full-time opportunities. So our career services include career advising, recruiting events and company sessions, professional development workshops, and we also collaborate with the NYU Wasserman Career Center. So this is a center that is available for students throughout the university, but we make sure to connect with them to provide you more resources. Internally, some of the examples of things that we offer are company information sessions. So these are opportunities where companies can come in person or perhaps hold a session virtually where they share information about what the company does and what a position such as a data scientist would look like within the company. We also have a career fair. So this is a smaller version of a job fair, where just typically a job fair would maybe be like 50 or so companies or something like that. We have a smaller version of this specifically for companies that are recruiting for data science positions. And these are opportunities for one-on-one interactions between students and representatives. We also have professional development sessions. So these workshops help students develop skills, um, things like improving your resume, interview skills, communication skills, things of that sort. Okay, and now to share some information about our alumni stats. So this report is based on self-reported data by our alumni. We have self-reported employment records for 72% of our alumni as of fall 2023. So we'll be updating this information with our most recent graduating class soon. But as you can see here, a majority of our alumni tend to work in either the tech industry or finance, and then folks are scattered throughout other types of industries. 1 in 5 of our alumni worked or are currently working at a FANG plus company. Some of the top 10 most popular job titles: data scientist remains #1, and then some of the other positions vary across the board. So things like applied research scientists, machine learning engineer, data analyst, and then some students go on to continue their studies at the PhD level. Some recent stats of the past, prior to this previous one, but past 2 graduating classes. So you can see here again, the trend remains the same. Technology still is the highest percentage of where alumni enter. Finance is still pretty high. And then when it comes to the others category, this kind of varies between things like consulting, insurance, media, entertainment, a variety of different industries. Okay, so now we are going to hear from a few of our current students. And so this will be a short Q&A session. I have some questions prepared for them, and then we will open it up to Q&A with any questions that you may still have in the chat. So let me just stop sharing my screen, and then I'll have our students introduce themselves. Alrighty. So,
Hey, Francheska,
yes.
we can start our videos, I think.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. I don't know why that is, but I'm going to make you go and
Okay.
maybe. Oh. Okay, great. All right, so Juan, could you kick us off with introducing yourself?
Yeah. Well, hi everybody. I'm a second year master's student. My name's Juan. I come from Guatemala. That means that I'm an international student. I did my undergrad in computer science. And before applying to the program, I had a little bit of work experience working at a fintech startup, where I was doing some like data science work, modeling, dashboarding, etc. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want me to add.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Hannah?
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Park. My preferred pronoun is she, her. I have majored in psychology during my undergrad, and I am still working as a data analyst in psychology research right now. So I'm a part-time student, which is why this is my 2.5 year. So yeah.
Thank you. And Catherine?
is Catherine, and I'm from China, so I'm an international student, and I'm a second year master in data science program, and I majored in business and finance during my undergrad and minor in psychology. Yeah, and I have no working experience, full-time working experience before this program, and I had several internship experience related to data analytics and finance.
Thank you. All right, so our first question, so I think I still see this coming up a lot in the Q&A, and I think almost everyone, all of you guys can kind of touch on this a bit. So while our program is open to students from a variety of educational backgrounds, we do require students to complete math and programming coursework for admissions. How important do you think this has been throughout your time in the program? So Hannah, wanna start it off?
Yeah, I could go. I think it's extremely important to meet all the prerequisites in both math and programming, as they will be your foundational skills that will be required from the day one in the program. So the curriculum will just expect you to be proficient in these areas, and then it will move on, start building on these foundational knowledges right from the start. And the pace of the curriculum, I would say, is pretty fast. So these are the things that will ensure for you to have the solid groundings before coming into the programs.
Mhm. Yep. Catherine?
Yeah, so I think that most courses require a relatively solid foundation in programming and math, especially some upper level classes like machine learning, deep learning, and without these foundations, it might be a little difficult for you to learn.
Yeah. Juan?
Yeah, I agree with what both Hannah and Catherine said. I would add though that like a CS or a STEM background is not necessarily required. Some of our classmates don't have that background, but they did cover all the requirements, and that really helped them out. But still, don't be discouraged if you don't have like a CS degree.
Yep. Totally. Okay, another question. I think I've seen a lot of this as well, so hopefully this clears some things out. But how did you decide who to ask for recommendation letters? So I know we have a lot of our students do tend to come straight from undergrad, so they may ask like their, faculty that they've worked with. If that's how you went about it, like maybe share a bit about that. But then if you're coming after like having worked for some time, and then perhaps you had to go the other route where you asked maybe like supervisors or people that you worked with, how did you approach that as well? So Catherine, start us off.
So for my 3 recommendation letters, I asked for 2 of them from classes that I performed really well and also related to math and programming, and 1 recommendation letter from the mentor from my past internship experience. I think all the professors are really willing to help, and as long as you ask and just try to be friends or try to make a good relationship with them and try to make a really good impact and to let them know like what you want to highlight, and I think they will work.
Yeah, thank you. Juan?
Yeah, I because I had a little bit of work experience, or at least it had been a little while since I had been in school. I think 2 of my recommendations letter came from previous supervisors, direct supervisors who could like speak from my experience, or they had led me through the project that I talked about in my resume and in my letters. So they could really talk about like my strengths and highlight why I should be considered for the program. And then there was one previous professor who I was close with during my undergrad, who I asked for the third recommendation letter.
So you had a mix. Hannah?
I think mine is similar to one. Out of three rec letters, I've got two of them from my work-related people, and then one from my university professor. I also have been out of university for the few years and was working when I applied. So I haven't really kept very close contact with the professors that I knew back in the university. So I asked my recommendation letters to my direct supervisors and research investigators whom I have worked very closely with. What I focused on was I was trying to find the personnel who understood my skills and then work ethics and my contributions really well, so they could provide me a detailed recommendation.
Makes sense. So I'm seeing a few questions like this, so I just to continue on this topic. Some folks are asking, and my recommendation would be, so the question is, do the recommenders need to be in the data science field? And my answer is no. And I think almost everyone here can pretty much testify to that as well, right? You don't necessarily need to have a professor that was a professor of data science to give you recommendations. Then that's also not what we're looking for on the review process either. We're looking for recommendations that speak to your ability to perform well at the graduate level. So yeah, how do you guys feel about that? Anyone wants to jump in?
I think I could probably jump into this because none of my recommendations are from the personnel with the data science background. I personally came from psychology background, so um the recommendations that I got are either from who I have worked closely with when I was in data team or psychology professors. But when I did communicate with them throughout the recommendation, writing out like the process, I asked them if they could write in a way that how like Francheska just mentioned, how I could adapt into the graduate level study program. Well, that's what I have focused on by writing out my contributions and then their understandings on me.
Thank you. Okay, so my last question, and then yeah, I'll keep looking through the chat to see what else people are asking that maybe you guys can answer. But ultimately, why did you end up choosing CDS? You know, especially if you like applied to other programs and things like that, what particularly like motivated you to choose this program? So Juan, wanna start us off?
Yeah. I I had been working in like a data science related job before applying. But I came from like a CS background. That meant that despite me being able to like work with these algorithms, implement them, sometimes when it came to debugging, understanding really what was going on, under the hood, I was lacking a little bit in that department. And I think this program really focuses on giving you the fundamentals around the tools that we use day to day as a data scientist, so that you can, really understand the types of models that you're implementing, the decisions that you're making around, tests that you run. So that's why I chose this program, because it's like very strong in the fundamentals that it teaches. And I think a secondary choice was that it's in New York as well. One of my objectives is to get a job in the technology industry after this program. And I think New York provides you with the opportunity to, build your network, get to know more people that are working here, I think like, Silicon Valley and New York are like the two places where like tech is happening in the US. So I think that also had a big impact in my decision to come into this program.
Hannah?
I think Professor McFee have mentioned this earlier, but out of the programs that I have looked into during my application cycle, CDS was the only program that had the data science department separately. Usually the data science program is within the statistics department or computer science department. So I found that the curriculum that the CDS provides is really strong and have a really good balance between the theoretical foundations, and then the application, which was the one of the important criteria for me because my goal was to fill in the knowledge gap that I didn't have for not having a mathematical or a computer science background, and also to know and gain proficiency in data science.
Thank you. Catherine?
I agree with one that there are more opportunities in New York, and I believe that the data science can broaden my like career prospects, like whether I want to work in finance, quant, consulting, or data science in the courses provided by this program, like can meet all of my needs for my professional knowledge.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so let's see, gonna take the last few minutes to try and answer some questions in the Q&A here. So yeah, so if you guys can also go through and see if there's anything that you're able to answer. I'll try to answer some of these out loud. Okay, so one on here, what proportion of students come straight from undergrad versus prior professional experience? I don't have this data at the top of my mind, but I can say majority of our students do still come straight from undergrad. I want to say maybe it's like 60-40, 70-30, something like that. But majority are coming from undergrad. Again, that does not mean that you shouldn't apply if you're coming from having professional experience after being away from school. We have two great examples of folks here right now that are succeeding in the program. So that shouldn't hold you back from applying. Okay, how are the different components of the application weighted? Again, we can't really give like, oh, like it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 here, right? Every application that we receive is going to be different. And that is the point of a holistic review process, right? Is that we review based on what you are submitting to us, not according to like a very specific, measurement. So that's why I say make sure that you are putting in all your effort into having all parts of your application be strong. So if you're worried about your grades or things like that, then making sure that you're putting the time and effort into your statement of purpose, your personal history, making sure that you're picking great recommenders. But overall, your overall application should just be a strong one. There's no like perfect formula for getting into the program. Let's see, do I need to have research experience if I do not want to continue with the research thesis track in the future? I'm not sure I understand the question. I think if you're interested, for instance, if you're trying to pursue a PhD or something like that, after doing the master's, you don't necessarily need to come in having research experience. That's something you can build during your time in the program. We don't have a thesis track or anything like that. You can complete independent studies, working alongside faculty and things like that, but our capstone project is usually a industry focused project that is completed working as a group alongside your peers. So so that would not necessarily fall within to that area of interest. Let's see, in terms of areas of interest with the tracks, So you can specify your area of interest within the application. So if you're interested in big data, math, NLP, etc., you can specify that. This does not affect your chances of admission in any way. Neither does us applying for the industry concentration or the biomedical track. Everyone's applications are reviewed together. So there's no preference given to any one student because of your selection. Again, the GRE questions. A lot of people are asking, should I submit a GRE? Like, do you get a preference if you submit a GRE? Again, no, we do not give any priority or preference to anyone that submits a GRE. That's why it's optional. And we mean that. So this question, we were asking what percentage of admitted students submit their GRE. I honestly can't tell you because we don't track that either. Let's see. In terms of waiving classes, we do not, the only class you can waive is probability and statistics for data science. You cannot waive any of the other required classes. You cannot transfer in credits from another graduate program either. So that's something to keep in mind as well. In terms of submitting transcripts, please take a look at the frequently asked questions on the GSAS webpage. There's very specific instructions about how to submit there. If you have any questions about your academic transcripts, your degree, whether or not you're eligible to apply based on your degree, please, you can reach out to NYU Graduate School of Arts and Science at gsas.admissions@nyu.edu. They are the ones that determine degree eligibility and can verify your the eligibility of your academic transcripts as well. So please feel free to reach out to them. How much financial aid is given with regards to scholarship? So again, it's limited scholarship are available. I can't say for sure what the number of scholarships that we have available at the moment, but they are between either partial scholarships or full scholarships. So a full would obviously cover all the tuition, a partial would cover partial tuition. Everyone is eligible or considered for this. So there's no difference between being a domestic or international student. We consider all of our applicants when reviewing the applications. Fee waivers, lots of questions about fee waivers. Instructions about applying for an application fee waiver are available in the application. So once you start your application, the information is on there. You have to submit a form to us. The deadline, all of that is included there. So please review that. We also have limited funding for fee waivers. So please be aware of that as well. It's not a guarantee. We consider everyone, again, domestic and international. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's a question maybe for you guys. This is the last one that I'll do live. Curious about the cost of living in New York. So I don't know if you guys want to share any information on how you navigated or have been navigating that.
Yeah, I could
Thank
start us
you.
off.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna try to look up. I did have like a budget thing that I had written down. But just like off the top of my head, I live in Brooklyn. I pay around $1,500 a month in rent with a roommate. I think like grocery estimates probably around $100 per week for me. And then what other like fixed costs do I have? Commuting to the subway or commuting to school, it's by taking the subway. That usually comes up to like between $120, $130 a month. Yeah, I don't know if somebody wants to add anything else, any like other fixed costs that they think.
It's expensive. I live here. I've lived here all my life. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But again, there are advantages, like you guys have mentioned before, about being in New York, right now. Okay, so a lot of the questions in here still are like very application specific. I do again encourage you guys to please review the materials related in the FAQs. A lot of your questions can be answered there. Some of you are asking very kind of like specific questions to your own situations, which again, we can't really provide specific advice on like how you can improve your application because again, there's no guarantee on what your admission based on, very specific like formula or anything of that sort. You're welcome to reach out to our panelists here. They're all admissions ambassadors. You can find their contact information on our website as well. So if you want to, ask them about their experience with applying, you're more than welcome to do so. But just keep in mind that, again, there's no perfect formula. So we can't say like, oh, like absolutely do this. There's a guarantee that you'll get in if you do this. It would be impossible. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions that you might want to know from them specifically. Otherwise, any other general questions that maybe we didn't discuss today or clarify today, feel free to reach out to our offices, cds-admissions@nyu.edu. We'll also be sharing out the recording for this so you can look back and review the materials that were shared. So the recording will be shared probably within the next week or so. And otherwise, that is all for today. Thank you all for joining, and we wish you the best of luck in your application process. That's it.